Hello, hello, greetings, greetings. This is Joe Green, and I just want to share some thoughts with you. And this is somewhat of an urgent message that I want to share with you. And part of it is those of you who have been following the ministry, following what I've been doing for many, many years, and I would say at least about 20 years, my messaging has stayed the same. So originally, back in 2004, 2005 is when I came up across this spiritual rebirth. And during my time of spiritual rebirth, I was going through a time of fasting and praying. The Lord began to really deal with me about certain issues that I had ignored for many years. And as most of you know, I'm in my late 50s, so it's not like I'm new to this kind of stuff. It's not like I'm new to the party, but I have been dealing with and thinking about and being exposed to a lot of these things for many years. But it was really in 2005 when the Lord sat me down and I went through a spiritual rebirth. I went through a fasting and praying period, and some things really became evident to me. And mostly not new things, but things that came back to my understanding of my mindset. And so when I began to study, because as most of you may know, or if you've listened to any of my past talks, my messages, my sermons, or whatever, I talk about the two major influences in my life from a male perspective. So I had my pop who was raised in Georgia. He was born in 1912, raised in the deep south of Georgia, and he experienced true racism. I mean, real racism, not the fake racism that they talk about now, not microaggressions and all this other foolishness that we buy into now. But he experienced real racism, right? Jim Crow South. Um, and he taught me about it. He gave me a lot of the stories about how he was raised and what he experienced, but he also talked to me about not allowing those things to shape my life or to manipulate my future, right? And so I learned, I knew how real racism was. I knew about the real history, and also being a student, I began to study a lot of the things, not even back in the Jim Crow South, but even before that and to do it from a larger perspective. And then my stepfather, who came around me in my life when I was like 12 or 13 years old, he was a Black Panther, very radical. He taught me that side of it. So I knew both ends of it. So whenever I share things with you, I never want you to think that I'm doing it from a place of being uninformed or ignorant to what has actually occurred in life. I've experienced things in my life that was bias, prejudice, racism, whatever you want to call it, but I also understand that there's a limitation to that influence of those things in our lives. But what I really came to the realization 20 plus years ago was the fact that those topics, racism and different things like that, was being used to manipulate people of the African American community, blacks, whatever you want to call us, but not only used to manipulate us, but it manipulated us to the place where we are taking the wrong side of issues. Historically, we've been bamboozled, like Malcolm X said. We've been run amok and all these type of things. So I want to talk about one in particular, but I want to give a little bit of background. Anytime you give something, you need to nuance it and you need to give it in its proper perspective, right? And so, just really quickly, what happened is, during the time of slavery, black people didn't have full citizen rights. You had the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment that gave us full citizen rights, right? So that was 1865, the turn of the century. You had black people that had freedom, but then you also had the Jim Crow South, which was really focusing on separate but equal, which means that they couldn't oppress, involuntary servitude based on the 13th Amendment was illegal except for if in case you were incarcerated, right? So what they would do in the Jim Crow South a lot of times is they would lock black people up for certain things, and they would use them for the chain gangs to rebuild the South that was destroyed by the Civil War. But anyway, I digress. And so, but what happened after that is you have black people that now begin to be empowered, right? We had full citizen rights. We were able to do things without the oppressive oversight of racist laws. And so many people that were in the power structure, they recognized that this was a threat. And so, because they recognized that these empowered Black people was a threat, they came up with a couple different strategies. And again, go through my YouTube channels and my talks, and I've outlined them all. I've outlined the Black Boule, which are the gatekeepers that keep us in bondage and keep us isolated. I mean, not isolated, but keep us never fully embracing what we could become in America. They allow certain people to make it through, and the rest of them, they oppress them by the different types of rhetoric. Um, you have what is known as propaganda, which is also groupthink that the Marxists studied in Germany. Propaganda, they came up with a strategy on how to incorporate groupthink. And so part of what that groupthink did was it helped to oppress Black people mentally, right? So what happens is when you understand what propaganda and rhetoric and all those things are, is it took us out of being intellectual and looking at things from a factual basis. And so the majority of us have become very emotional, right? And so they use themes and general ideas and concepts to control us. That's why, for instance, Barack Obama, when he ran for office, he ran on a very general platform, right? Hope and change. And so what did Black people say? Yeah, we had all the other presidents look the same. This one looks different. He looks more like us, so we're going to support him. But they never gave us anything substantial. The Democratic Party, they come across as though they want to help Black people. But if you look at the 60-year history of us being over the top, loyal to the Democratic Party, we've gotten nothing except for promises. They come around every election cycle, but because we don't look at things from a factual and informational standpoint, we look at things from an emotional standpoint. We tap into the emotional rhetoric that they give us. But the most important one, the most effective strategy that was perpetrated against us that we now support 100% is abortion. And so you had this lady by the name of Margaret Sanger, and Margaret Sanger was a eugenicist. And for those of you who may or may not know what eugenics is, eugenics means good genes. You have the word genics or genes, right? Which means most people know what genes means, right? Um, and eugenics means good genes. And so with Margaret Sanger and other people that day, they believe, as Charles Darwin had taught people, about evolution. And they believed that there was three or four people groups, there were three or four races. And again, I'll say this over and over again, race is not biological, it's not biblical, and it's not factual. It's a social construct that was created to keep certain people oppressed and to promote colonization and different things like that. So anyway, so what Margaret Sanger was a eugenicist who believed in the concept of race. She believed that the Black race or the Negroid race, because you have Negroids, Caucasoids, and Mongoloids as the three primary races. Some biologists also talk about Australoid, which is a whole nother thing, but primarily what we look at in modern day times, this social construct that is not a real thing, it's what they use to manipulate us, is you have Negroid, you have Caucasoid, and you have Mongoloid, right? So the Negro race, what they said was less evolved than the other races, which justified colonization, it justified oppression and slavery. Okay. So fast forward, because Margaret Sanger bought into that concept of race science or race theory, she believed that not only is the Black person, the Negro, no, not only were we less evolved than others, but in order to make a better, more successful, and more peaceful society, you had to reduce the population of the less desirable people or the less evolved races. And that's from her books. I'm not making this stuff up. I'm quoting what she believed. She believed that if you got rid of certain races of people, then society as a whole would be better off. Right now, I'm going somewhere with you. I want you to stay with me. And I'm going to pray that you stay out of your emotional lower vibration of emotions and use your higher logical sense and take the information in. If you never heard it, research it to make sure that what I'm saying is true and then pass it on. and let it change your mind. Because what has happened, unfortunately, we as Black people, instead of allowing facts and information to shape how we think, we take how we think and how we feel and our emotions, and we apply it to facts. So we make facts line up with our emotions as opposed to allowing our emotions that line up with facts, right? So this is what Margaret Sanger believed. And so in order to believe to perpetrate that or to execute her plan of getting rid of or reducing the populations of less desirable, she called Black people human weeds, and in order to get rid of them, she came up with first and foremost in 1913, the Bureau of Social Hygiene. The Bureau of Social Hygiene, you can look it up. And the Bureau of Social Hygiene was to get rid of the less desirable people so you can have less crime, less violence, less all this other stuff in society. At the same time, the Rockefellers, who funded Margaret Sanger and her eugenics movement, her Bureau of Social Hygiene, they also were funding the Nazis in Germany because Hitler and the Nazis also believed in eugenics. They believed in ethnic cleansing, that you had to get rid of certain groups of people in order to have a better society. So the Rockefellers were funding these things with this false pseudoscience of race, and it was promoting the idea of certain people were less evolved, and so we have to get rid of them. And they came up with strategies and how to do it. So what Margaret Sanger said was, we don't want the people to know that we're trying to destroy the Black people. And I'm paraphrasing when I say this, but it's right from her books. And one of the books you can look at is called The Pivot of Civilization by Margaret Sanger. Many of her speeches and everything that she did. And so what she did was, she said, we don't want people to know we want to destroy or kill Black people, right? So what we need to do is come up with a strategy on getting them to reduce their own population. And so what she did was she came up with the concept of eugenics. She partnered with the Eugenics Society, which ultimately became Planned Parenthood. Now, here's the interesting thing about it. She got people like W.E.B. Du Bois. He donated money towards Planned Parenthood, the Rockefeller family, and other people because W.E.B. Du Bois, which most people don't realize, he was a horrible um, enemy of Black people because he believed in this concept of the talented 10th. So what he believed was that the top 10% were the only ones who were worthy, and the rest of the 90% weren't worthy of Black people. And so the talented 10th were to be brought in, and they were part of the strategy to oppress the rest of them. And so what he believed and what he taught Margaret Sanger is Black people were very spiritual people. So in order for you to implement or to get acceptance of what is known as what we know now, Planned Parenthood or abortion, you have to get the Black pastors involved. Because Black people were so spiritual, if the Black pastors told them it was okay, they would go along with it. And so that's why they employed Black pastors to promote Planned Parenthood and the abortion industry. And so that's why if you see in 2025 in modern times, even though Black people are only 13% of the population, we are 35 to 40% of all abortions in America. And as a matter of fact, places like New York City and other places, but especially New York City, more Black pregnancies end in abortion than birth. I'm going to say that again. In places like New York City, more Black pregnancies end in abortion than birth. And this was very strategic. It was to target the Black community. Most Planned Parenthood facilities are in or near um, minority communities, right? This was very much strategic. And so when I hear people talk about white supremacy, when I hear people talk about, how Blacks are being targeted, when I hear people say Black Lives Matter, it's all part of the deception. It's part of the manipulation. Because the same people that believe that Black Lives Matter are also the people that are pro-abortion or pro-choice. And pro-abortion or pro-choice is the most damaging and most detrimental strategy that was ever employed against Black people. It is the most effective strategy that was ever employed about Black people. And so, one of the things that I'll say to you, 1973 Roe versus Wade, over 20 to 30 million Black babies were aborted in this thing called eugenics. It was ethnic cleansing, population control, whatever you want to call it. It's all the same strategy. And so you think about right now in America, it's 35 to 40 million black people. Since 1973, almost 30 black people, 30 million black babies were aborted. Now you add that to the mix of how many people we have now in America, how many black people. And not only that, but since 1973, also think about that the average black family unfortunately has 2.1 babies per family, which means you can't just look at the 20 or 30 million, but you have to also add the children that they would have had as well. And so most statistics will say that Black Americans, instead of 13%, we would be probably closer to 20 to 25% of the US population. And so if you think that you're overlooked right now, if you think that you're underserved and overlooked because of us having a diminishing population. But if you think about if we were 25% of the population, then we would absolutely have a stronger voice in what occurs in the country. And then you look at also with abortion, you have illegal immigration, which Hispanic and Latino people, which I'm not against, have surpassed us as being a higher population, which is why they get more recognition because a politician is going to look out for those who are going to help them stay in office. You also look at the other people groups that are coming into the country, they are surpassing us because of the fact that we are in a place where we are no longer replacing our population. Our population is diminishing while others are going further. But why am I saying all this? I'm saying all this because I want to make you aware of something that is occurring right now in Pennsylvania. This week, they are supposed to be voting on or pushing H.R. 1957, H.R. 1957, House Resolution 1957 in the Pennsylvania House of Representatives. And H.R. 57 is very dangerous and damaging because I gave you the background of abortion, eugenics, population control, and all those type of things. But one of the things there was is in Pennsylvania there was a limit to how abortion was executed on people, right? So in Pennsylvania right now the law says up to 24 weeks. Now abortion is bad any way you look at it because at the moment of conception, based on what God says, is God knows us, right? At the moment of conception, the baby is a human being. So the argument that you're saying don't tell women what to do with their body, that's not what the pro-life movement is about. It's not about telling a woman what to do with her body. It's about preserving innocent life because God knows us before we were in our mother's womb. He said he knew you before he knit you together in your mother's womb, and he has a purpose and a plan for your life. So if you think that being able to destroy a life at 24 weeks is okay to God, it's not, period. From a biblical perspective, scientifically, they say that fetuses in the womb can experience pain at 10 weeks. So at 10 weeks, that fetus can experience pain. And any mother, if you're being honest, and I've never carried a baby in my stomach, but I've been there with the birth of my children, and there's no way you can believe that that's not a human life inside a mother's stomach. They respond to stimuli, they move around, they respond to noise and different things like that. There's times when the baby's awake and the mother's asleep, and vice versa, and they are moving around. And in order for a body to move, it means there's brain function. And so, in order for you to have brain function, you have a human life. So, that baby, that fetus in the womb, it has its own blood type, has its own DNA, has brain function, and it experiences pain. So there's no way that you should let anybody convince you that that's not a baby. The other thing people would say is that it can't survive outside the mother's womb. Now I know for a fact I have a daughter who 2 pounds. She was born at 2 pounds. She was born premature. I talked to another couple. Their baby was 1.1 pounds, 8 ounces, right? And the baby survived. My daughter is in her 30s now, has two children. She's living a very productive life. So, uh, regular basic care allowed her to have a good quality of life, right? So, this whole notion of it can't survive outside a mother's womb, but let's use common sense. Your 1 month old, 2 month old, 6 month old baby can't survive without having normal care, right? You got to feed it, you got to change it, you got to wrap it up, make sure it's warm, you got to do all these type of things. So the fact that the baby can't survive without the mother when it's in the mother's womb is no different than a 6 month old baby. So if you want to extend that argument, then what are we saying here? 6 month olds should also be able to be terminated? Like, what are we saying here? We have to get out of this manipulation that has occurred, but especially as black people, I'm going to say that again, especially as black people, we shouldn't allow ourselves to be manipulated by the very instrument that was meant to destroy you, to reduce your population and to cleanse you because the person who founded this said that you are human weeds and you were undesirable, right? So the foundation is wrong. But more importantly, this HR 1957, the problem that I have with it more than anything, aside from the fact that I believe that terminating a baby is against God's will, I think it's cruel and barbaric. Aside from all those type of things, it is 100% supported by black legislators, the ones who are supposed to be protecting you, the ones who you vote for and put them in office, the ones you say we need you to look out for our best interests, are the ones that overwhelmingly support the very thing that was meant for your destruction. I'm going to say that again. The very tool and instrument that was created for your destruction is the thing that the people that are supposed to represent you and represent your best interests overwhelmingly supported. And I'm going to tell you why. Primarily, it's because of money. I hate to say this, but it's a Democratic thing, and I know this for 100% fact. If you are a Democrat, especially in Pennsylvania, and you run for office, you will not get any support or money from the Democratic Party if you are not 100% supporting abortion. And what I'm saying to you is this new legislation, H.R. 1957, will take all the restraints off of abortion, which means right now, 24 weeks. 24 weeks is where the limitation is. But if this is passed, there will be no limitations. And so up to 40 weeks, you'll be able to abort your child. You'll be able to terminate your pregnancy up to 40 weeks. It means the day before your child is born, you could go to a doctor's office and you could have the pregnancy terminated. And let me say to you, 10 weeks, we already know scientifically, they know that the baby experiences pain and can respond to stimuli, right? It can move around, which means it's a human life, has its own DNA, its own blood type. 24 weeks is where they currently cut it off at. And we know at 24 weeks, which is what is 24 weeks? 24 weeks is 6 months, right? 6 times 4 is 24. At 6 months in Pennsylvania, you can terminate the pregnancy. At 6 months, that is absolutely 100% a human. But let's take it a step further. 40 weeks? There is no person who is logical, has a right mind, and knows anything about babies or human beings that can believe in your heart of hearts that at 39 weeks, that's not a human being. 38 weeks, it's not a human being. There's no way in the world you can make me believe that. And so we have to check our hearts, people. We have to get out of politics. This is not a Democrat, Republican thing. This is not a white or a black thing. This is a moral thing. Because we as a society, whether you're a Christian, a Muslim, a Jew, atheist, or agnostic, we as a society have stated that we believe that children have the right to be protected. We have this big deal now, and I saw the people got in their fake outrage about the Epstein files, and when it all came out, people got quiet because they made it a Republican or Democrat thing. But we all said we have this collective outrage that with the Epstein files, people said that they believed that children were being victimized. And we said that victimizing children is where we draw the line. That's horrible. We all acknowledge it's terrible and it's evil. So why is it convenient that we can say it's wrong to victimize a child, but it's okay to terminate a child at 39 weeks? It's moving, it's taking in nourishment, it's responding to stimuli, has all its limbs and everything else. But yet we say that that is fair game. And I'm going to, uh, I'm not going to say beg, beg's not the word. I'm going to exhort you. I'm going to ask you prayerfully that you look in your heart of hearts and you say, at some point in time, we got to draw the line. That allowing a baby to be terminated, aborted, whatever you want to call it, up to 40 weeks is something as a society we say we're going to take a stand against. Whether you're black or white or whoever, but especially African Americans, because once you understand the history and understand that this was something that was actually created to target you because you were less than human. You were undesirable. You are human weeds. That's the person who came up with this whole thing did. And the Bible is very clear about how God feels about hands that shed innocent blood. At some point, we got to go beyond Republican and Democrat. We got to go beyond white and black. We got to go beyond how we feel about things and stand on what is the truth. That this is not acceptable. And this is the season we're all going to take a stand. We all have collective outrage about what we say is moral or immoral, but this is the most immoral thing that can occur is to terminate a child in its mother's womb. I'm going to continue to pray for you guys, and I pray that the Lord moves on your heart and that you will wake up and you will take a stand against this. It's not a popular stand, and I'm okay with it. I've been on this soapbox for 20 years, and I've got a lot of pushback. A lot of people are upset about it, and I don't care because at the end of the day, I need to please God. I got to stand before God and justify if I stood by and allowed babies to be terminated and I didn't say anything. If I stand by and say, Lord, I knew the truth, but I didn't want people to be upset with me. I didn't want people to not speak to me. If that's the case, then I don't care about anybody liking me or disliking me, speaking to me or not speaking to me, canceling me or not canceling me. At the end of the day, I'm here to please God. And God says he loves the children. And he says, Jesus himself said, if you do anything to hinder these children or harm them, it'll be better for a millstone to be tied around your neck and have you thrown in the sea. And the only reason I say that is because Jesus was telling you how precious he views children at every single level. I love you. I'm going to pray for you. And please, 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 let's make the right decision. Let's not allow politics to override the very basic moral decision to preserve and save our babies. Love you. Be blessed.